Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Thank you for joining me on another episode of True Crime, Past and Present. I'm your host, Miss Daisy. And in this episode, what I want to do is I want to talk about the Orrin and Orson West case from California City, California. So, for those of you that have followed this case, these are the two boys that have been missing since December 21st, 2020, out of the backyard, allegedly, of their adoptive parents. But it's been over a year and there still has not been any new information. So I want to dive a little bit more into a news report that was given and talk about it. Uh, and I'm going to go ahead and link the original down below for those of you that want to check it out. But let's go ahead and get started.
Came in the house, I saw them there.
Somebody knows something.
They could be anywhere.
I came back out, I didn't see them now.
Y'all was supposed to take care of my nephew.
The tension in this community is just raising.
Things like this don't just happen out here.
It's been 20 days for more than 100 days.
10 months since the West brothers went missing.
Have we searched the house? Absolutely. The backyard? Absolutely.
So I do want to say that this is a recap from the ABC 23 out of that area. I believe they're in Bakersfield. And so I really like how they incorporated a lot of the family members, a lot of the relatives, a lot of the neighbors. So this is why I wanted to, comment on this particular news clip. Okay, let's continue.
It will be found. And that's all I want is to find our babies.
Good evening and welcome to this special edition of 23 ABC News. I'm Kitty Van Middendorp. Well, it's been 1 year since two young boys, 3-year-old Orson West and 4-year-old Orrin West, were reported missing. Tonight, we take you through our coverage of the case over the past 365 days.
I do want to point out here that these are the only pictures we've ever seen. There have been no updated pictures. I know the adoptive parents in their press conference, their only press conference, had said that Jacqueline had said that there were updated pictures in her phone, and it's been over a year and we have not seen these pictures. So just wanted to point that out.
As investigations continue with law enforcement. Meanwhile, the question we've all been asking this past year is, where are the boys? But what about who were the boys? 23 ABC's Kristen Vartan spoke to family members who shared their memories of Orrin and Orson West.
I was changing his diaper, and when I was changing his diaper, he was just staring at me, and I asked him what was he staring at. He just started screaming out of nowhere and started laughing. That was funny. I was myself with him.
Charles Pettis, biological father to Classic, later named Orson West. But he's reflecting on a moment with Sincere, later named Orrin. And while Orrin West wasn't his biological son, he was part of the family.
Happy I had another baby, and
So I wanted to, I like the fact that they provided an interview from the dad. I know initially when the case started, we really didn't hear from the dad. I know out there were all these rumors going around that maybe one of the dads took the kids, since each child does have a different father. But you just look at his face and he has the face of worried. And, I just think that's very telling.
it's just another part of me that I had to take care of. And I didn't spend a lot of time with him before all this stuff happened, and they came and took him away.
So, yeah, so they said that they took him away because of what happened with Ryan Dean. Again, I think they do go into it a little bit, but I don't want to go into it too much. So let's continue.
Hold on to what little time he got with those two kids. before they were put into foster care and eventually adopted.
I try to stay strong for my brothers, but we just want answers and justice, that's it.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about with me.
Yeah.
I get emotional, but.
And then taken away again.
Some kind of answers. It's been a year. We deserve something.
Yes. Yes.
So I do want to point out here that we see the biological father, we see Kiki, which is their aunt, the kid's aunt, and then we see Roro in the middle. Now Roro, she has made many appearances. She has always kept the boys' name out there. She doesn't want the case to go cold. She has done many interviews with many other YouTubers out there. But she's here. She's here, present. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's. I mean, it's only right. It's only right.
And here we have a picture of what the California city landscape is. So as you see, there are mountains in the area, but it's more desert-like. So the night of when this happened, it was pretty chilly that night. So that's why the question has always been to the adoptive parents, why would you let the kids go play outside if it was cold? And I think in the initial interview, foster father did say that they didn't have a jacket or anything. So, just food for thought.
As Orson's biological aunt Kiki Horde says, Tuesday marks the anniversary that adoptive parents Jacqueline and Trezell West reported the brothers missing. Since then, Pettis and Horde's biological cousin Rosanna Wills says there have been countless searches, monthly candlelight prayers, and unanswered questions.
That's the thing. There's $125,000 on the line. Nobody's claimed it. Nobody spoke up. There's so many tips. Nothing. There's so much support around the world. Nothing. So it's like when you have all of this and we don't have nothing.
Now here we are at Casa Loma Apartments.
Well, she's right. I mean, it just makes you wonder. There is a very $125,000 reward. Usually somebody at this point cracked. Somebody said something to someone or something, but there has been nothing as far as what the public knows, right? Who knows exactly what the police has, what information they have, which I'm hoping they have more information. But as far as what we know and obviously what the family knows, there's not much information to go on. So it just makes the whole case more suspicious or more intriguing because it's like, who was involved in this? Is it like governmental officials? Is it like a secret society? I don't know. Um and then here they're going to start talking about where they came from. Remember, they moved into California City. They were just there for a couple months and then the kids went missing.
This is where officials say the West family moved from to California City. While we were unable to get a hold of the adoptive parents of the boys, Trezell and Jacqueline West, this is what they had to say to us in a previous interview about what they meant to them.
I am completely sorry because we were entrusted with her children, and they came to us, and they became our children. And we named them, and they are our children, and so we want them back.
The biological family says that while there were events leading up to the boys being placed into the foster care system and eventually adopted, those events were misunderstandings and an accident. And now they have questions for the adoptive parents.
If you followed the case, like you would see pictures, like they was more happy at home than they was with them. And if they loved them, like still to this day, can we get one updated picture? Something that's going to show what they looked like when they had them?
Exactly. That's exactly what I've been saying. So, where are these pictures, Jacqueline? Show us these pictures that you took. You're telling me that you have a little cute 3 and 4 year old child with you. It doesn't even matter if it's your adopted child, even a niece or a friend or a nephew, whatever. Ellie, I'm speaking for myself. I see my niece doing something cute. I go ahead and I snap that picture. So, and I see my own kids and it's like, oh my gosh, every little thing is so cute. Where are the pictures? We need to see these pictures. Or is it that you don't want to show them because they're going to show us exactly how these kids were at the time they disappeared? Let's continue.
That's all.
Will says the family refuses to give up the search until they find answers, and that their love for the boys and each other keeps them going.
It's been a year, 365 days. Imagine going missing for a day.
You know, I still got them. They should know that I still love them, that I'm always gonna have their backs regardless of the fact those are my kids. Like, you know, that's something that you'll miss in life that you can never get back.
In Bakersfield, Kristen Vartan, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
So that's very, very, um, it's very sad to see, right? And it's like, what can you do, right? What can us as a public, what can we do? And my thing is this: we need to go. Whoever lives out in that area, go back, look at your cameras, look at any pictures that you might taken. If you live in the Casa Loma apartments and maybe you were just snapping pictures of your kids or whatnot, go back and look, see if maybe you captured something in the background. I mean, let's look at the Gabby Petito case. That's basically how it was solved. Somebody went back, looked at their video, and they saw they captured a small tidbit of something which led to the recovery of her body. So I invite you to go ahead and do this. But let's go ahead and continue.
And while Orson and Orrin came to be part of the West family, their birth mother, Ryan Dean, told 23 ABC last year she was working to get them back in her care. She became vocal following the boys' disappearance and claimed she believed foul play was involved.
Not like them, I could tell. I could tell. I could tell when my kids like someone or when they don't like someone. I have 2 older kids, and I know, and they didn't like them. Something was going on.
And I have questions regarding this particular instance. So I know that has been said and it was reported that the kids were legally adopted to Trezal and Jacqueline. And here we hear Ryan Dean's telling us that she still had visits with the kids. So I'm wondering if maybe the adoption it wasn't fully completed. Maybe they were in the process of being adopted out. And maybe the because she's saying that when she saw them, she could tell that the kids didn't like Trisel and Jacqueline, right? She just said that. So it makes me wonder if maybe a caseworker, a social worker told Jacqueline and Trisel, you know what? We're not going to go through with the adoption. You're probably going to have to return the kids back to the bio mother because she's complying you know, with everything we're asking from her. And so maybe they were scared that the kids were going to say things that they didn't want anybody else to hear. I mean, that's what I'm thinking happened here. I mean, as far as the motive, right? But let's continue.
23 ABC did reach out to Dean, who said she had nothing to say to the public until her boys were found. Well, the Wests reportedly moved from the Casa Loma apartments in Bakersfield to California City in September of 2020. A local investigation begins after the boys are reported missing on the 21st. Nearby neighbors begin search efforts just hours after that first call, and investigations by California City Police begin as well. The West speak to the media for the first time, their first and only interview of the year. Here's what they had to say.
I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest two go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. I realized that I left the gate open, and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that didn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold.
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own, their own conclusions.
And I think, I mean, they opened up themselves to this, right? Think about how Ryan Dean was when she gave the interview. She was in tears. She was distraught. These are the babies. And if these two people here that you see are saying that they've lost their babies, and look at no tears, no, I mean, yeah, they have their masks, but we can look at their eyes. We've all have grown to understand uh the language of the eyes since we all wear masks now. So I don't see, I mean, does somebody see a couple that's in despair, that's sad because they lost kids? I don't. Tell me what you think. But let's continue.
They don't know anything. We're not sure like everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew.
Despite the community's prayers, the boys are not found by Christmas. Over the weeks, a large reward is offered by local businesses and the family itself, leading to information for the boys' safe return. The California City Police Department also updates 23 ABC on any leads that they've been looking at. In that month, law enforcement dug up the parents' backyard to make sure the boys weren't buried underneath. Search dogs found the boys' scent inside the home, but not outside. Officials also used cadaver dogs inside the residence. They found no scent of human remains. A search warrant collected things from the home, including electronics like cell phones, and the parents' van was also examined for any trace amounts of blood. Nothing was found. They also spoke to neighbors, and previous properties were searched in Bakersfield, along with the former Saddle Ranch resort.
Everybody's just hoping that they find something. We're going to go through every area there is out here.
Scouring the desert, just looking for any clues.
Those nearby also began looking for the children hours after they were reported missing and have never stopped. But neighbors involved in that first search recall initial confusion amidst the chaos, as they had no idea there were two, much less six children living at the property on Aspen Avenue.
Welcome to the magical world of.
I mean, and that's telling, right? I mean, how can a neighbor not know if there's children? Uh, People know I have children. I know my little toddler's always screaming, and we have toys outside. And, it's just, how can you not know? So, as earlier they had discussed that the dogs did find the scent in the home, which makes sense because if they moved, right, they might have carried some of their clothing with them. I guess the big issue is, and the big question is, were the kids physically ever in Cal City? Because nobody ever saw anybody um or anything. And then as the reporter had mentioned, there were six kids, right? So it's two kids, Orrin and Orson, and then it was two biological kids, I believe, and then it was two kids in foster care. Now, as far as what I understand about the foster care system, there's a social worker that's supposed to be making uh, weekly or monthly visits to the home to ensure that the kids are doing well. And I'm just talking about the two foster kids, the two unknown kids that we don't know about. And so, again, this is just based on conversations that I've had with people that are in that business. So, when they go in to ensure that the child is doing well, even though they're not there to see the other children, they do keep an eye out. right? To make sure everything's well. Not only that, to make sure that all kids are doing or are getting along well. Because if I was a foster parent, I'm just thinking, and if let's say my foster child is not getting along with my other children and there's some type of conflict, then I will let the social worker know. I would think. So that's why I'm saying I think that the question also is what did the social worker see when she would make the visit for the other two kids that were in foster care? Additionally, I'm very curious to know what the other kids saw. But let's continue.
Why would anybody want to hurt them
A search that's felt fruitless here in the land of the sun, where no amount of daylight has been enough to uncover the truth behind the West boys' whereabouts.
It's the mystery that's so horrible about all of this.
Just not knowing. It's really, really hard not knowing.
Neighbors recall that December night, telling 23 ABC they think about Orson and Orrin every day.
Walk out of my house and there's the house and it's boarded up.
I just talk to God every day. I know He knows where they are. Why are you not letting us find out where they are?
Ida and Robin both live nearby, and both had no idea a family was residing at the California City home.
We actually have probably the best view of that house because we sit kitty corner.
Ida saying she recalls seeing a white van parked outside the house beginning sometime in September of last year, and a young man several times over the months, but no one else.
The van was usually parked there all the time.
Robin was the West's backyard neighbor and is also adamant she never.
So this is the layout of the house. I don't know if you can see my cursor. So this is the West house, and then this is Ida's house, right? So if the door was open, I think the door was open here, then the kids, if they quote unquote walked out, it was like, it's empty. So you're telling me that if you stood here, you couldn't see if a kid was there or not. Not only that, it was super dark that night. Remember, this is more of a desert-like community or desert-like setting, right? So, I mean, I know that this picture is probably more recent, and there was probably shrubs, I believe, during that time, but still. And then I'm thinking, okay, if let's say the kids went out, but I mean, like for example, where I live, my neighbor here has a pool, my neighbor here has a pool, my neighbor here has a pool. So if my kids were missing, my first instinct is let's run to the pool and see if maybe they went in there because kids can get into anything. But I don't recall them ever mentioning that. But let's continue.
Never saw any sign of children or animals outside.
The father, you would see him out in the backyard occasionally, but only him. I never saw any children of any kind ever. In all the years I've lived here, there's never been children back there, ever.
The two recall the night of the boys' disappearance.
I do want to say it kind of bothers me. So when Tressa and Jacqueline gave the interview, I think one of the extended family of the children were there or neighbors, I don't recall, but somebody had asked them, why, like, if they don't recall ever seeing children, why didn't we ever see any children there? And his response was, because of the pandemic, we were not trying to get them out, or we weren't trying to, be outside. Well, first of all, Trissal, as far as I know, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, COVID is not airborne. It's not. So if you if the children play in the backyard, it's okay. Like it's not like the order wasn't don't play in your backyard. The order was just don't really mingle with anybody because, we're trying to limit the transmission. But But yet he always went out, according to the neighbors, right? They only saw him. I don't know. That just kind of bothered me. But let's continue.
Both taking to the streets with other neighbors to look for the children they never knew existed.
And he said they lived in this house over here. And I said, really?
Ida saying that night no police came to their doorstep or asked to search their property, which includes a large barn. She thinks it could have been a place with potential for protection in the eyes of two young children wandering alone on a dark December night.
Nobody ever talked to us. So.
1 year later,
now they would be 4 and 5.
And after countless searches, the property on Aspen Avenue sits vacant and eerily quiet. A small memorial, which began the week the boys disappeared, still serves as a somber reminder. Two children are dearly missed and still missing.
No, I don't know what I hope. I just hope the children are alive.
And it wasn't just neighbors and law enforcement agencies investigating the case. A private investigator from Northern California says he was also drawn to the investigation.
So I want to add, before we go into the private investigator, that I've been following the case since day one. I live in California, but I don't live out in that area. But I was very compelled by it. I first heard about it through AV Watchman and AV News Crew. So if you haven't heard them, go ahead and check them out. They have a lot of good information about the case. But they, and then initially, this private investigator that she's going to discuss, he kind of like volunteered his time. Um, and so then he kind of like stepped away after a few days. There's a lot of rumors into why he stepped away. I know there's rumors as to like he was threatened, he was asked to leave. Police department didn't want to cooperate with him. So I'm very glad they added him to this special, and so that way we get to hear his side of the story. Okay, let's continue.
Bill Garcia joined efforts while offering his team services pro bono. While he stepped away, Garcia continues to keep in close contact with those near the case. He tells 23 ABC he believes the boys could still be alive and reunited with loved ones.
The fact that remains have not been found, nor evidence of them, being deceased have not been found. That's all very good, and many times the children will pop up.
Still, in the decades Garcia has been helping to solve children's cases, he tells us he's never seen one like this, where he's been accused of taking the children he's looking to find. And Garcia isn't the only person who's been accused of taking Orson and Orrin West.
Okay, so then she's going to talk about, oh my goodness, I guess, in my opinion, this is where the theories take a whole monster on its own, and people really want to find out what happened, and then they start doing investigations and researches, and then they start going through Facebooks and stuff like that. And so some people got involved where they had no reason to be involved. So this is where she's going to talk about potentially Jacqueline's mother, but later on we find out that it wasn't Jacqueline's mother.
We caught up with Cherry Vasquez, a woman who first shared her story with us last year after she found crowds of angry people at her doorstep in Bakersfield demanding to know where the boys were. Vasquez says YouTubers accused her of being the biological mother of Jacqueline West, claiming at one point to even have a birth certificate. Streamers went as far as saying she was a witch and reached out to her actual children, asking about Jacqueline and the boys. She also says her grandchildren weren't allowed to visit during this time as they feared for the kids' safety. Vasquez tells 23 ABC people also reported a GoFundMe page she had started for a family member as fake, claiming she was going to use the money to cover up crimes related to the West boys.
One of the YouTubers had told all the rest of them to flag it because I was trying to get money to bury the boys.
And what was your reaction to hearing that?
My mouth dropped, and I began. It made me cry because it's like, did you really? This girl needed this, and you're accusing me of murder.
Cherry has considered legal action and even found the mother of Jacqueline West. She said there was no resemblance and no remorse from her over the case of mistaken identity.
I am confident that we will understand the circumstances.
So when the whole case started, Cal City PD was the leading agency on the case. And then with a couple months later, they switched it over to BPD, which is Bakersfield Police Department. And so a lot of people that follow the case and a lot of the family of the boys were excited. They were very happy that it went over to BPD because that meant that uh, more help will be available. Now, Cal City PD is a very small department. I believe there's about 6 to 9 officers. I could be wrong on the number, but it's a very small department. And BPD, it's a larger, it's a city, a big city police department. But the reason they took it over was because the last known sighting, other than the family, from my understanding, um, the was in Bakersfield at the Casa Loma Apartments. So therefore, because the kids were never physically seen at Cal City, then BPD took over. And so this is where we heard from them.
Of their disappearance.
Still to come as the case progresses, the Bakersfield Police Department takes the lead in the investigation. We share why next.
Oh, commercial.
Elementor presents The Web Creator.
So yeah, I mean, check it out. It's a very cool, I think, special that they did on the boys. But let's continue. What happened here?
We has an update now from Bakersfield Police on where they stand tonight with the search.
We're doing everything we lawfully can to solve the case.
The Bakersfield Police Department says they have been involved in the investigation of the disappearance of Orson and Orrin West since the beginning.
Once it was established that historically the boys are from Bakersfield, their families from Bakersfield, their history was in Bakersfield.
On March 1st, the department announced that they formally took over the case. Through their investigation with other law enforcement partners, as of December 14th, BPD says they have done about 116 interviews with people connected to the case and have seized about 170 items, but that number was as of June 2021. Since the reported disappearance, BPD says they've also executed about 48 search warrants, got more than 200 tips, conducted 4 out-of-state searches, and have done 27 area searches as well.
Now, they seized 170 items. Was one of the items Jacqueline and Trezel's cell phone? And if so, have they been returned? That's my question. Let's continue.
Well, and even though Sergeant Robert Pear doesn't frequently share updates about the case, he says BPD is still working to find the boys.
The investigation hasn't stopped. Just because on a daily basis we don't tell you what we're doing.
Pear says the department understands that people are continuing to follow the case and want updates from law enforcement.
We know the public is crying out for answers. The public is crying out for the boys being returned home. I am confident that we will understand the circumstances of their disappearance.
But they say they can't reveal details that could jeopardize the case.
It closes investigative paths to us when we present all of the information that is known to us.
Despite the lack of public knowledge of the case, Pear says people shouldn't stop caring about the investigation or about the boys.
The more people that talk about it and know what's going on as far as the disappearance of the boys, the higher the likelihood that someone that either remembers something or sees something and contacts us. And that's extremely important.
This is why I'm thinking, based on the statement BPD made, actually, this particular statement, I'm wondering if they already have an idea of what happened. And now it's more of collecting of evidence so they can prosecute. And I'm not in law enforcement or anything like that. These are just my opinions. But I'm wondering if that's the whole holdup. And not only that, I mean, obviously, if they find bodies or if, find something like that, then they can easily, it kind of would tie whatever evidence they have together to go after whoever they feel did something to these boys. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you live in that area, in Casa Loma, around that area, check your, if you have a ring camera, if you have surveillance, just go back and check it out around maybe a month prior to the December 21st, 2020. If you still have an opportunity, see if maybe something was caught. You never know. But let's continue.
In Bakersfield, I'm Maitili Gobi, 23 ABC, connecting you.
We often hear the phrase, it takes a village, when celebrating all the things a child has accomplished. But for the West Boys, it has taken a lot of people to keep this search going. As the months pass, the amount of those helping seems to be diminishing. As 23 ABC's Vanya Patino finds out, those who have stayed are not letting go until they get answers.
This is one of ours. You know, they was born in Bakersfield. This is one of our kids. And just, if it was one of yours, what would you do?
They are not her children, but 10 months ago, in her family room, now turned into a workshop, Keisha Stevenson began printing the boys' faces on shirts and masks. She's now updating the message.
Someone knows something and they didn't just disappear. So keeping these shirts and stuff out there, it keeps the awareness out there.
Despite the face masks, sweaters, shirts, and boards plastered across California City and Bakersfield, the question remains, where are the boys? And right now, the only thing holding these families and community together is prayer.
A lot of hope, but a lot of prayer, is going to help our entire situation.
As a father of 6, Nick Hill cannot fathom the heartbreak the families involved have been going through.
It just has to be a hole in their heart that will never close until their child is found.
Hill and his team at the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce have hosted talks and joined the prayer circles Keisha Stevenson has set up. But as fewer people show up to these vigils and the pictures and teddy bears laid outside their Cal City home fade, those making sure this case does not go cold are asking the community to come back.
We need all the support. We need ideas, whatever. We just need the awareness to just continue. We got to keep in their voice. We don't want it to go cold, period.
In Cal City, Bonnie Patino, 23 ABC News, connecting you.
Coming up next, when it comes to missing child cases, it's all hands on deck. We hear from one organization that makes it their mission to find.
Right. So I'm going to leave it there. I just really wanted to start getting their names out there again. I wanted for, for us to don't not forget about them, right? There's been so many cases. There's been the Summer Wells case. There's been the Gabby Petito case. There's been, you know, Alina Sarhar. We have a lot of missing cases, and so as time passes by, a lot of these are forgotten. And I would not want this particular case to be forgotten. Um, these are young children. Like, what is happening, right? So tell me what your theories are. What are your thoughts on this? Where do you think the boys would be? Um, I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm thinking, let's ask a psychic, right? I mean, I've heard that some psychics do work with police departments. So maybe, if they're so stumped, hey, why not take a lead? And not only that, Um, I wanted to pull up the Google Maps of this particular area where Cal City is, and I'm wondering if there's any like lakes or like bodies of water where maybe they need to get some search teams in there. You never know, right? Again, I'm not too familiar with the area. I'm just, wondering if maybe that's the direction they need to take. Um, and then also, where is Tressau and Jacqueline West? I mean, the house was boarded up. They purchased this house. It's not a rental. They bought it. So, did they sell it? Are they living with relatives? It's been over a year. And then, as far as I know, again, this is just based on what I've seen and what I've read. They lived off of children in foster care, homing, children in foster care. So I'm assuming right now they're not doing that because of this whole case. So what are they living off of? Are they even working? Right? So I don't know. Um, I want to see if maybe we can do a live and just discuss everything we talked about. If you're interested, go ahead and let me know in the comments below if you would be interested in doing a live and just to discuss it and bring more awareness to this case. Alrighty. And go ahead and share, like, and subscribe. And thank you. And until then, we'll see you on the next one.